Tom owned 4 coffee mugs, 2 pairs of shoes, and a phone with 3 apps on the home screen he actually used. He also owned, without ever having planned it this way, exactly 1 bank account, 1 credit card, and 1 simple monthly number he checked on the same day every month. Someone once asked him how he managed to feel so calm about money while earning less than most of his friends. He didn't have a clever answer. He'd simply removed almost everything from the equation that wasn't essential, and what was left turned out to be enough. This video is about that removal and the specific rules that make it work. My name is Emory, and if you've ever felt like personal finance requires tracking 12 categories, comparing 6 credit cards, and constantly optimizing something, when what you actually want is to just feel stable, then this video should help simplify that down to what genuinely matters. And if that's useful to you, sticking around and subscribing helps this channel keep finding the signal inside all the financial noise. Most people think financial stability requires more complexity, more accounts, more strategies, more spreadsheets. They're completely wrong, and the reason matters because complexity and stability aren't the same thing at all. And in practice, the more moving parts a financial system has, the more likely something inside it eventually breaks down from simple neglect, not from a lack of sophistication. The first rule is deceptively simple. 1 emergency fund, sized to 3 to 6 months of essential expenses, sitting in an account separate from everything else. Not invested, not earning maximum interest, just present and boring. The mechanism here isn't complicated. It's psychological as much as financial. A single, clearly defined buffer removes the need to make a stressful decision during an already stressful moment. A job loss, a medical bill, a car repair. Without this fund, every emergency becomes a fresh, high-stakes decision about which debt to take on or which investment to sell at a bad time. With it, the decision is already made in advance, during a calm moment, which is precisely when good decisions are easiest to make. The second rule follows directly from the first. Automate everything that doesn't require judgment and manually decide only the things that genuinely do. Bills, savings contributions, investment transfers, all of these should move without requiring a decision each time they happen. This connects to something well documented in behavioral research. Decisions made repeatedly under willpower degrade in consistency over time, while decisions made once and then automated hold steady indefinitely. A minimalist financial system isn't one with fewer financial actions happening. It's one where fewer of those actions require active thought, freeing up mental space for the handful of decisions that genuinely deserve it. The third rule is to consolidate accounts down to the minimum that actually serves a distinct purpose. 1 checking account for daily spending, 1 savings account for the emergency fund, 1 investment account for long-term growth. Additional accounts beyond this, a second credit card for rewards, a separate account for a specific goal, a different bank for slightly better interest. Each promise a marginal benefit while quietly adding a small amount of ongoing cognitive load. Someone with 8 financial accounts spread across 4 institutions isn't more sophisticated than someone with 3 accounts at 1 institution. They're simply carrying more surface area for something to be forgotten, mismanaged, or quietly draining a fee nobody noticed. Someone might reasonably ask whether this rule sacrifices real value, since rewards credit cards and specialty savings accounts do offer genuine financial benefits in isolation. It's a fair question, and the honest answer is that these tools can be worth it for someone who will actually manage the added complexity diligently. But for most people, the marginal financial benefit of an extra rewards card, often a few $100s a year in cash back, is smaller than the cost of the mental overhead and the risk of a missed payment or an overlooked fee eating into that benefit entirely. Minimalism here isn't about refusing all optimization. It's about being honest about which optimizations are actually worth the complexity they introduce. Here's where this gets genuinely interesting, because the fourth rule addresses something almost nobody frames correctly: choosing one simple investment approach and holding it, rather than continuously researching a better one. A low-cost, broad-market index fund, held consistently for decades, has historically outperformed the majority of actively managed alternatives, not because it's a clever strategy, but because it removes the ongoing temptation to react to short-term news, chase a trending sector, or second-guess a reasonable plan. The data on individual investor behavior consistently shows that more frequent trading and more frequent strategy changes correlate with worse outcomes, not better ones, which means the minimalist approach here isn't a compromise. It's often the mathematically superior choice, specifically because it removes room for emotional interference. Someone might reasonably ask how this squares with the instinct that more research and more attention should logically produce better results, since that logic holds true in most other areas of life. It's a fair instinct, and the honest answer is that investing behaves differently than most skills, because the emotional cost of watching an investment fluctuate daily tends to produce worse decisions the more closely someone watches it. A simple, automated, rarely checked approach doesn't underperform a more actively managed one, because it's less sophisticated. It outperforms because it's structurally immune to the exact behaviors that erode long-term returns. The fifth rule is to define financial success with a single number rather than a shifting, comparison-based standard. Many people's sense of financial stability drifts based on what a friend just bought, what a coworker just posted, or what a broader culture suggests they should have by a certain age. A minimalist approach replaces this moving target with one specific, personally chosen number: a target emergency fund size, a target monthly savings rate, a target retirement number, calculated once and revisited only occasionally rather than constantly re-benchmarked against everyone else's visible choices. This isn't about lowering ambition. It's about anchoring ambition to something stable rather than something that changes every time someone opens social media. Someone might reasonably ask what happens when life circumstances genuinely change: a new job, a new city, a growing family, since a single fixed number can't account for every future scenario. It's a fair concern, and the honest answer is that the number itself should be revisited periodically, perhaps once a year, not abandoned entirely in favor of constant recalculation. The minimalist principle here isn't rigidity. It's reducing the frequency of a specific type of decision. How am I doing compared to some external, shifting benchmark, down to something calm and occasional rather than constant and anxious. The sixth rule addresses spending directly: fewer, more deliberate purchases rather than many small, unconsidered ones. This isn't a call for extreme frugality. It's a recognition that a large number of small purchases, each individually easy to justify, tend to add up to a meaningfully larger drain than a smaller number of carefully chosen larger ones. Someone who buys one high-quality item they'll use for a decade often ends up spending less over time than someone who buys 5 lower-quality versions of the same item across that same decade, while also carrying less decision fatigue from the process of choosing each time. The seventh and final rule ties everything together: review the entire system once, on a fixed schedule, rather than monitoring it constantly. A single monthly or quarterly check-in, covering the emergency fund balance, the automated contributions, and the investment account's overall health, replaces the anxious, frequent checking that tends to accompany a more complicated financial setup. This connects back to the very first rule in a full circle. The entire minimalist system exists specifically so that most of the time, there's nothing that needs attention at all, and the rare moments that do require a decision are calm, scheduled, and clear rather than reactive and stressful. So if the actual question is what makes someone financially stable, the honest answer isn't more tools, more accounts, or more strategies. It's fewer of all three, chosen deliberately and left alone. The math doesn't reward complexity for its own sake, and it doesn't punish simplicity either. It simply rewards a system with fewer places for something to quietly go wrong, and enough automation that stability doesn't depend on remembering to think about money every single day.